Copy. Go live. Okay. Testing. What's up, everybody? Welcome. It's iCkEdMeL. Thank you for stopping by. I started it a little bit early so we could have a couple of minutes to like settle in. And I wasn't expecting to jump on right now and stream. I was about to head out. But this breaking news came out. And so Jazz found this Reddit post online where it said that they're doing evidence presentation, which is kind of interesting. Let's take a look real quick. And like, I'm not. Let's wait to the presentation, and then if I have to, we'll recap the story. So I think maybe they'll recap the story when we listen to the presentation. Let me download this and we get a full screen look at it. And this is the case that like happened around the time of Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie, around that time where they were in the same area, that same town, Moab, Utah. And there's some people out there to this day that still believe Brian Laundrie did it, you know, and even back then, people were still carrying on, or they were carrying on about it back then, where I had made multiple videos saying reasons why not. Like, I understand there was similarities, but there was multiple things. Like, even the restaurant themselves had made a Facebook post and said that I believe they said that Brian and Gabby were not in there at any point. You know, things like that. So here, let me get this image. So, and it's going to be streamed. Let's see if the stream pops up. It is going to be streamed. I do have the link for the Zoom too, but I prefer just to use the YouTube stream. I just get flashbacks from these people with Jared Lysick and, you know, what do they call that? The Zoom meeting link. And so, and the guy that supposedly did these crimes, he offed himself. The people that I've been following, this was like a big mystery for a while. Immediate release today at approximately 1300 hours. The Grand County Sheriff's Office and the Unified Police Department shall present the findings in detail, along with all suspects surrounding the double homicide of Kylen and Crystal. And at one point too, because I think Crystal worked at the McDonald's. There was one guy there that they thought, or at one point they thought he was suspicious too or something, but it wasn't him. In continuation of the previous release of the identified suspect, Adam Pinkusiewicz, whatever, a timeline of evidentiary findings shall be released to the public regarding this case, culminating in the closure of this tragic event in our community. And so this is what we're going to be watching here in a second, I guess. I know I'm early for like the first time, right? Oh, is the Streamlabs working? The Streamlabs, is Streamlabs going too hard? I might have to turn them off. Been off for, the thing took off a week, coming back hard. And I interviewed Kylen's father, I think twice on the channel, and I like even all the specifics and time stamps of this story, I'd have to really look it up. I have a couple of videos. So the bot is going too hard. Okay, I'll fix it. Maybe I'll just have to turn off I think that's what I had to do last time. Just turn off the, not the bot, but like the word protection. I just turned it off. Got 3 minutes.
So I want to talk to you about another case, but I want to get people
Dog the
at
bounty
home
hunter.
caught up on the situation in Moab. It's something we've been covering here at News Nation for a number of months now. But this is a case of two newlyweds who were married and were killed. They were murdered in Moab. This happened in August of last year. Kylen Schulte and Crystal Turner are their names. They were found dead. They were out camping. Authorities gathered and eliminated the names of a number of possible suspects right when it happened. One name that came up right at the beginning of this case was Brian Laundrie.
Get a job. How you doing, man? Happy New Year, bro. Hope you're doing well.
Because Brian Laundrie and Gabby Petito were in that same area of Moab around the same time that Kylen and Crystal were killed. Well, Gabby, as we know, later turned up dead, strangled to death in Wyoming. But the three murders somehow got connected, kind of lumped into the same category. It is a question that many had at the time. The FBI said that Brian Laundrie had nothing to do with it. They ruled him out as a killer, but they also never said who the killer was. Months and months went by with no updates in the case until recently, this week, an announcement, the local sheriff's office naming a local man, the man you see there on your screen, Adam Pinkusiewicz, as the killer in this case. He worked at a Moab McDonald's and then later committed suicide. Based on his investigation, Dog the bounty hunter is not convinced, however, that authorities have the right suspects. So, Dog, what do you know that police don't?
So here's the thing. All right. This has nothing to do with Brian Laundrie. For the people that are still on that train, nothing we can do for you. Nothing we can do. But there is some people that believe that this guy is still not they don't believe this guy's the right guy. Some people don't believe it. I don't know. Supposedly this guy, after they finally found him, supposedly this guy, I think, had fled the state, Utah, and then offed himself.
Don't in this case. What have you uncovered?
Well, we've been here in Moab for about 5 days now. I have one of the greatest investigation teams in the country, and all of them except for I or ex law enforcement. We have interviewed 100 at least people. We have got 8 or 9 people that point to one particular person, and it's not Adam.
Ooh.
The girls saw a strange, weirdo-looking guy. They knew who Adam was because they work with Adam. We did other interviews.
Oh, is Adam the one they work with him?
Today,
I gotta look that up.
People that knew Adam, they said he's not like that. The guy that's our number one suspect, when we interview people, they say, oh, yes, he could have done it. This guy that we think is a suspect was interviewed in the beginning, but the cops let him go.
You have to unmute it.
Okay, they're getting ready. They're setting up. This is going to be the live stream. I just wanted to play that little bit of snippet so you guys can kind of maybe get an idea of what's going on. But they're now, I guess they're going to be presenting their evidence. I was almost going to title this press conference, but it's not really a press conference. I'm surprised they're actually doing this. I don't know if it's because maybe people have doubted that it's this guy, Adam. Dog the bounty hunter. You don't play. Turn yourself in, boy. I texted Kylen's father, but the number he has is my old number, so I don't know. But I told him it's my new number because I'm assuming he knows this is happening today. But in case he doesn't, I sent it to him. And that guy, I've talked to him several times. He's a really genuine guy. Nice guy.
Your mic is muted.
Muted? iCkEdMeL.
Is that better now? Can you hear me?
So they got a whole, on the top right here is the cameras. So they got a whole setup there, I guess. These are all the agencies.
You just went back to mute it. Sorry.
Let me move this out the way. That's why I prefer just to watch this on YouTube. I didn't want to mess with Zoom after the last time with, with people on there and stuff.
How about now?
Yep.
Okay.
I didn't want to play with it.
Kind of the housekeeping rules of kind of how things are going to go today. The case presentation will be given by Detective Rigby and Detective Nate Whitney. We ask that no questions be asked during the presentation. There will be a time after the presentation that will allow for some questions. If you would like to ask a question, you're going to need to be on Zoom and use the raise your hand option. You cannot ask questions if you are on YouTube. Did I get that right? Okay.
That's a YouTube.
Once again, I just want to thank my staff.
Get outta
I want to thank everybody. This has been a long time coming. I want to thank the County Attorney's Office, Christina Sloan, for all her help and cooperation in this. Like I said, this time I'll turn it over to Carrie and Nate.
Thank you guys for the super chats. I appreciate that. I'm gonna get it after this presentation. You guys hear it loud and clear? I turn up the volume a little bit. I'm glad they're gonna be able to ask questions too. This is dope. I'm good. I mean, I'm not good, but I'm happy that they can do that. Sometimes the Q&A is my favorite part. Hope they don't have audio issues though. No, I can't control the size of the picture. I mean, unless I join their Zoom, maybe I could. And I wonder if they're gonna switch it. I hope they switch it. If not, I'll try to join the Zoom and fix the. I just don't want to play around with the audio because it looks like they open mic, and maybe the presentation stuff is gonna be here on the big screen. So we'll see. I mean, there is something I might be able to do, but let's give it a chance till it starts. I might be able to do dual screen.
There we go.
Let's see if this will still go.
Yeah.
Investigator Nate Whitney with the Grand County Sheriff's Office. I was lead investigator on this case. As you can tell, my voice is kind of going out, so Detective Rigby's going to be doing most of the talking. What'd you do?
So this is the case of the double homicide that occurred in the Grand County. The incident date is going to be August 14th of 2021. So as far as the assisting agencies, so the main assisting agencies in this was the Unified Police Department. I'm Detective Carrie Rigby. I'm with the Violent Crimes Unit there. Liaison Agent Rachel Butler has been a huge help also with the FBI. So one of our victims, Kylen Schulte, her wife was Crystal Turner, and she was reported missing on August 16th, 2021. She was found deceased on August 18th, 2021 at 11:23 a.m. Crystal Turner, her wife was Kylen. She worked at McDonald's in Moab. She was reported missing on August 16th, and she was found deceased on August 18th at 11:23 as well. So as far as their relationship goes, they met in Moab in 2019. They were married in Arkansas on April 20th, 2021. Their friends described them as being devoted to each other. They lived what they called a van life and camped, or they stayed in their van around the area, and they did not have a permanent residence. They also plan on returning to church together.
Van life, that's the other thing. Van life, that's
so
why.
Days prior to the homicide, on August 12th at 5:30, Kylen and Crystal both worked their normal shifts and came down from the campground that they had been staying in. They were in the area, went and took a shower, and at 18:22, Kylen and Crystal's vehicle can be seen on surveillance returning to their campsite. At the time that they returned to their campsite, they had their first interaction with what they described as being a creepy camper. Kylen and Crystal both reported the creepy camper and said that he pulled into the campsite and did what they described as a howl, and Crystal returned the howl. Kylen and Crystal both stated that they decided to the creepy camper decided to camp next to them and put his stuff really uncomfortably close to their campground. Kylen and Crystal both stayed in a hammock that night, and while they were laying in the hammock, they saw the the guy creeping around their campground. They never confronted him, never said anything, and there was nothing ever like said to him about it. On August 13th, Kylen and Crystal reported the creepy camper left the campground. And just before they were leaving the campground to go meet up with some friends in Moab, they said that the creepy camper returned back to the campground and started unpacking groceries and taking them out of its trunk. Kylen and Crystal both described the creepy camper as being a man with a beard and no shirt. At 17:53, Kylen and Crystal's vehicle can be seen driving down the canyon into Moab. At 17:10, so 7 p.m., they arrived at the get together with their friends. There was no conflicts that night. There was no issues. They were just hanging out with friends. At 8:45, they left the get together, and they made a comment that if they don't show up to work, come looking for them. Kind of joked about it. There wasn't anything really serious in their statements being said, and friends were concerned, but not super worried about it. At 9 p.m., they went and hung out with another friend at their house, and they went for a drive and continued to kind of tell this friend about the creepy camper. But again, they didn't seem too worried about the creepy camper, and they wanted to return back up to their campground so they could retrieve the rabbit that they had with them. So the day of the homicide at 12:30, they left the friend's house from Moab, and they drove up. So about estimated time would have been about 1:15 that they would have returned to the campground. At 11:48, shots and screams were heard on surveillance in the nearby area. Now, we do have just a prior warning. Some of these pictures and some of the things that you are going to hear from here on out may not be something that you're comfortable with. The next one, you will be able to hear gunshots. You may be able to hear screaming like as previously described. And there are some images that, while they're not obviously terrible images, it could have blood on them. And so if you guys get squeamish, please go ahead and discontinue during that time.
For this part, I'll probably full screen so you guys could see, but just a warning. Okay. I didn't know they had video. This is crazy. Can't hear nothing.
So again, those shots that you just heard,
Didn't play it.
while they are faint and that you can just hear the shots being fired, that was determined the time that the homicide occurred, and that would have been August 14th at 11:48.
Maybe it was just the one sound. I'll take it back after if.
So as far as the days after the homicide, obviously the scene was not initially first located. So at 5:30 on the 15th, Crystal was supposed to show up to work at McDonald's, but she didn't show up. Friends that worked with her assumed that because they were going to start returning to church, that this was something that they maybe just hadn't arranged. She just took the day off so that she could go back to church. So the coworker reached out to her on Facebook, but the messages went out but never were responded to or seen. On the 16th, Crystal again doesn't show up to work at 5:30 in the morning. And on the same day, Kylen doesn't show up to her job. So more messages were sent from friends, from coworkers, and nobody responded back. So a coworker spoke to their management at McDonald's, and it was decided to report both of them missing to police. So at 2:03, Moab Police Department took the report for the two missing persons.
You guys voted full screen so far.
August 17th, family made pleas on Facebook to help find Crystal and Kylen. On August 18th, a family friend saw those pleas on Facebook and ended up responding out and trying to help find any kind of car or tent or anything that she could recognize as being belonging to Kylen and Crystal. And at 11:23, their campsite was found, and that family friend made calls to the sheriff's department reporting it. 3 calls were made by that caller. So again, these are just some scene photographs while they are not obviously super terrible, we're not going to show anything too extreme. Just be prepared for those.
Warning, guys, just heads up.
So this is their campsite, how it was found when the sheriff's department arrived. You can see their car, you can see the tent, and then just kind of the general setup of how that scene was. This is just an overview, kind of give you an idea of how it's not very close to anything. It's far out from a lot of things. There is, you know, a couple cabins nearby, but for the most part, it's just camping.
That's where the wedding was at too, I guess.
So in this area, and I apologize for those on YouTube, you can't really see a whole ton. Try to point out that there is 2 trees right here, and that's where this all kind of, where they were all camped out. So it's away from the road, it was off the road, difficult to see.
I mean, the arrow's kind of on the road.
Not a lot of people in that area.
I don't know where she was pointing, but. Wow, this is crazy though, to get a visual finally. I mean, I know people have been out there, but to see them presenting it, wow.
So these were some bullets that were recovered during the autopsies of the girls. And these, again, like I was saying, just be cautious of what they are. So the first one is a full metal jacket bullet. The other 3 pictures are what we call a critical defense round. So it has a little plastic piece, like a red plastic piece. So while what you're looking at, it's red, that's not blood, that is actually just a plastic piece that is part of a bullet. Very unusual in any kind of situation. For as many homicides as I've done, this was definitely something that I had not seen before in a homicide. So that definitely caught my interest.
So they're saying that's not blood.
So some of the key points of the investigation that obviously helped in this situation were the numerous interviews that were conducted. Investigator Whitney, the sheriff's department, they all did a ton of interviews regarding this. They received hundreds of tips from citizens, 44 search warrants, and probably plus more than that, but estimated 44 search warrants were written on this case. And then some of the main information that was gathered on this case was just some of the state and federal crime labs assistant for information. So like what we had already just showed you, the identification of the bullets used in the homicide. So the critical defense rounds, they were identified as Hornady critical defense rounds. And then they also pinpointed some vehicles coming and going from surveillance that was in that area. So the crime labs actually helped us, and they slowed down some of those videos. They actually were able to send some frozen screenshots, I guess, and helped us show us which ones were coming after the homicide occurred. Also the audio enhancement, which you guys have already heard, just of the shots being fired, so that we could hear if there were how many shots were being fired and what we were looking for there. And then the identification of any possible weapons that were used on that scene. So they were able to ID the most likely used gun on that scene. So possible theories in this homicide, and obviously these are just a few of them. Maybe some more of the prominent ones were the family conflicts that the girls may have had, a prior stalker for many of the girls, financial conflicts, drugs, the Brian Landry theory, hunters on the mountain, and arguments with a threatening coworker and the creepy camper. The only 2 we were unable to clear out from all of that list there were the last 2. So the argument with the threatening coworker and the creepy camper were the only ones that we were not able to eliminate. And again, some of the key evidence that came into play from the state crime lab and from the interviews that were done. The vehicle seen leaving after the homicide, one of the vehicles that came into focus was a Toyota Yaris that left at 12:54. The red tipped ammo, the Hornady critical defense round, like I was saying, it's rare that those are used. A man camping in the area and has a beard, that was one that we couldn't locate. and then a list of possible used guns. And that was listed as being a Glock 17 or 19, and it was a 9mm handgun that was likely to be used.
Oh.
So this is one of the screenshots of the vehicle leaving at 12:54. It was a Toyota Yaris. And the reason that that became a focus of the investigation was because it was a vehicle that did not fit the typical vehicles that were coming and going. As far as all the other vehicles that we're seeing coming and going during that time, for the most part, it was SUVs, it was trucks, it was a camper trailer. It was, you know, the typical things you'd see up in the mountains. This one was a Toyota Yaris, something that, you know, that you don't see every day. It's not something you typically take camping. It was something that obviously stuck out to investigators.
Oh, he
This
lived
is
the van life
Adam
too.
Pinkusiewicz. I apologize if I say that name incorrectly. He was employed with McDonald's. He also lived the van life.
Ooh.
He had conflict with workers at McDonald's and became threatening and hostile. He never returned to work after the homicide, never picked up his last check, and he was not responding to law enforcement when they were trying to contact him.
So this must be the guy that worked with Crystal. Because Crystal worked at McDonald's.
So as far as arguments that Adam had with employees at McDonald's on August 8th, prior to the homicide, Adam became irate at a McDonald's night manager because they were telling him he needed to go faster. Adam got into this manager space and started making comments and making derogatory comments towards her, specifically about her sexuality. Adam was pacing around, punching his fist to his hand. Other coworkers reported that he said he should, quote, take her outside and kick her ass. The night manager left the store because they did feel like it was going to be an issue and that Adam would do something to him. Another manager came in to help de-escalate the situation and try to work that situation out. And Adam became threatening towards her, got into her space, like wouldn't really leave her alone, became threatening towards her and started pushing towards her and wouldn't move away when he was asked. So eventually Adam was told he needed to clock out and he needed to leave because he wouldn't calm down and he wasn't following the directions that they were giving him. So the conflict with Crystal and Adam, on August 7th or 8th, Adam had seen Crystal walk behind the McDonald's counter. So she started making sandwiches for herself and Kylen, which was a normal practice at that time. Crystal was not in uniform and was calling out to Kylen, asking her what kind of sandwiches she wanted and called her baby. Adam was obviously upset that Crystal was back behind the counter and asked another employee if she can do that. The employee said it was apparent that he was upset that it was Crystal that was behind the counter and that she was making sandwiches for her girlfriend rather than just making food in general.
Wow, that's some weird
shit. So no one
shit.
can confirm Adam ever confronted Crystal or ever said anything to her, and it is not believed that there was ever an argument between those two specifically. Crystal and Adam did not work the same shift, so they never had any kind of interactions together. They never crossed paths for the most part. They usually worked opposite shifts of each other. So the only time Crystal may have ever interacted with Adam would have been coming in on her time off to make sandwiches, get ice, things like that. Also during this time, masks were worn during work shifts. It was a requirement by McDonald's. And so there's a good chance that if they did see each other or if Crystal saw Adam, she was not going to recognize him.
The mask.
Adam never returned to get his last paycheck once again, even after the homicide, just after the homicide occurred. So the attempted contact with Adam, eventually Grand County investigators did respond out to another state to try to make contact with Adam for the addresses that they had on file. Adam was not at the listed address and it was found to be old addresses. However, it was located, registration for that vehicle was located, and it was found that Adam owned a 2007 Toyota Yaris, which was sold in Waterloo, Iowa in December of 2021. And that's a photograph of the Yaris next to it that is not Adam in the Yaris, just so you guys are aware.
I'm glad they said that. They would have hunted that guy down.
So investigators made contact with Waterloo Police Department. It was found that on September 24th, it was reported Adam had committed suicide. So Adam had actually shot and killed himself in a motel out in Waterloo, Iowa, using a revolver to commit suicide, and he had used Hornady special critical defense rounds.
The same ones, I guess.
And that's a photograph of those rounds.
Wow.
In the suicide note, Waterloo photographed one suicide note which mentioned being terminated for not working fast enough, and that he was terminated by lefty liberal bosses.
Wow.
Adam also mentioned in the note that he had a significant other. It should be noted that Adam's family has been very cooperative with law enforcement, and they simply seek the same answers that everybody else does. So they have been very helpful through this. So the Waterloo suicide investigation, after determining Adam's death was a suicide, all of his property was released to his family. Not much of it was actually released. So the family did not take all of his property. And unfortunately, a lot of it was actually thrown away when they relinquished his car. So when they did go and respond out to Waterloo, luckily enough, the family did take 3 cell phones, some paperwork, some safety deposit keys. But the Yaris itself was actually relinquished to a tow company, and everything inside that car was eventually thrown away by the tow company. Prior to it being relinquished, the family did find a bag full of bullets in the car, and they were not documented to be specific of what kind or anything like that. They were just destroyed by the agency out there. Adam's family chose to have his remains cremated at that time.
Wow. Incredible, dude. And so this guy's dead, so maybe that's why they're presenting
Some
all
of
this
the
stuff?
paperwork that was recovered in Adam's vehicle was a purchase for a gun from 2019. The family provided a copy of the purchase's receipt, and it was found that the purchase of the gun was for a Glock 19 9mm handgun. It also had a purchase for Hornady 9mm ammo. Now, contacting the company that actually sold him the gun, they said they could not confirm whether or not it was going to be hollow point or if it was critical defense rounds, but they can confirm it was a specialty round. So it would be either a hollow point or it would be that critical defense round. But because of the total, that's how they were able to determine that part. The Remington 9mm ammo was also purchased at that time, which could also match up with the full metal jacket round that was also found during the autopsies. So again, just to point out some of the obvious, the Glock 19 was one of the guns that was labeled as from the state crime lab as being the most likely used gun in the homicide. So as far as Adam's family dynamic, Adam wasn't really on speaking terms with his family. His family did assist him with hotels off and on while he was kind of living that van life. So if it became a necessity, family would try to help him out. And they actually assisted him with the last 2 weeks prior to his suicide while he was out in Waterloo. When he got out to Waterloo, the family was under the impression he was doing well and that he was happy. They said just prior to leaving for Waterloo, they actually received a weird message that they were concerned about. And they had said that they received the message on August 13th at 1:50, and it was a goodbye email saying goodbye to his family.
Wow. Sure. Be interesting if they showed us, but probably won't, I guess.
A warrant was written for a messaging app for the stuff that was obviously found on Adam's phone, and conversations with the significant other were found. So there were no conversations about the shooting or murders at all. And it was noted that any conversations during the 14th and the 16th were completely non-existent. There was absolutely no communication on his phone. There was nothing on any kind of social media, anything on the messaging app, nothing. during the 14th and 16th. So on the 16th, Adam's phone goes live again using a local Wi-Fi at a business nearby. So the text now does also reveal that on August 24th, he leaves for Waterloo, Iowa to go and be with his significant other. The conversations also reveal that during the time that he is out in Waterloo, that the relationship appears to kind of be up and down just prior to his suicide. So the cell phone downloads, once we were able to actually get into them, obviously his family were nice enough to hand those over to us and let us use those. They deleted most of the, he deleted most of them. So Adam deleted most of the content on those phones on August 26th and downloaded an encryption app in an attempt to delete anything else from there. So he deleted all photographs of himself out in Moab. Whether it was just something of him sitting there, it didn't really matter. He deleted them. And it was during that same time period that he deleted it. It was after the homicide. We also located some memos and screenshots inside his phone. Some of those memos and things that he was looking at showed extreme signs of racism. And the notes showed huge signs of problems with anger. So we also located an encrypted email that we were unable to get into just because of the time passed. We found notes in his phone that actually mentioned the area of the homicide occurred, but it was documented months prior. So he was familiar with that area. He had been in that area to camp, but it was just months prior that he had been documenting those. The notes talked about inside his phone, there were also notes and memos about raping and killing other people and how it was a constant thought in his mind. He also deleted and got rid of any of his Google history and his Google accounts and Facebook accounts just prior to his suicide.
Wow.
So these are just some screenshots from his phone. So these are just some like articles he had screenshot about the bullets that we were actually looking into, and then also the same gun that we were also investigating. So this is the same timeline that we just went through with Kylen and Crystal. The stuff in red is actually going to be Adam's timeline. So I'm not going to reiterate the same things of what Kylen and Crystal were doing. I'm just going to show you where Adam kind of fits in there and point out the main key points. So on the 12th, Adam goes and takes a shower and responds about a text. So nothing huge on that one, but just documenting where he was. On the 13th, Crystal and Kylen reported that the creepy camper left the campground. So at 9:30, Adam shows that he went and showered at a local business. And he actually started asking that day about getting a refund on his season pass. At 12:51, Adam calls that same business and he's very persistent about trying to get a refund. At 13:06, Adam calls McDonald's. And then 13:15, Adam calls about the refund again. At 13:50 is when Adam sends the goodbye email to his family that reads, "Goodbye, brother." At 13:57, Adam goes to the local market around here and actually spends just under $50 for groceries. At 2:04, Adam purchases $24 in gasoline. And then at 15:34, a black Toyota Yaris is seen driving up towards the campsite. Kylen and Crystal said just before leaving, which would have been at 5:53 is when they left. They said that the creepy camper showed up to their campsite and was taking groceries out of the car. So again, 8/13, 2021, 3:34. That's a picture of a vehicle that was headed up there. That is the vehicle in the Unified Police Department evidence lot. And then the one just on the right is going to be the same vehicle leaving just after the homicide. So on August 14th, again, shots were fired at 11:48. The Toyota Yaris is seen going down the canyon at 12:54. At 13:32, Adam showers at a local business. And at 14:17, Adam purchases more gasoline. At 14:25, Adam purchases $10 in groceries. And then he goes dark. So on the 15th, Adam doesn't have any kind of response, doesn't have anything on his phone, has no location, nothing on his phone. And on the 16th, when posts are going up about the girls, Adam signs on to the Wi-Fi, gets more gasoline. He notes the Mill Creek camping, which is local around here. And then he also starts searching Telluride, Colorado businesses. On the 17th, oh, I apologize. 17th is when the posts go up. Adam makes phone calls to a studio in Telluride and then starts making calls to a center in Telluride, and is believed to actually be out there with purchases he's made. On the 18th, Adam receives a text message from Moab and he turns it down because he stated he had another job, which he did not. So furthering after that, Adam on the 20th is in Telluride, Colorado. On the 24th, he is contacting his significant other and starts to communicate with him about going out to Waterloo, Iowa. His significant other and him had not had communication for several months. So he had just randomly texted him and started asking if he could come out there and stay with him.
What?
On the 27th, Adam arrives in Waterloo. And on the 3rd, family paid for a week at a motel. On the 17th, Adam's relationship starts changing with his significant other. Things started changing. He wasn't getting the same responses back. Things were very short. He kept apologizing, asking for answers. And on the 18th is when he again sends goodbye and then asks to see a significant other one last time. On the 23rd, Adam receives a rejection from a job that he had put in for out in Waterloo. And on the 24th, they receive a call from the motel about Adam's death. So we were able to locate the significant other and we were able to go and talk to him. He was very forthcoming. We had already cleared him and knew that he was not in the area.
That's so.
But once we started talking to him, initially his very first thing was that he knew why we were there. When we asked why he thought we were there, his statement was because Adam had killed 2 people in Utah. The SO said Adam had told him that he had killed the 2 people and that they were women. He said that Adam shot the women while they were in the tent, and that Adam had thrown the gun that he had used to shoot him somewhere, but he wasn't sure of where he had thrown it. He said that he also shot one of the women because shot them both because one of the women that was there was a woman that he worked with, and he didn't like her because she was bossy. Adam again said that he shot the women inside the tent. The significant other tried to look up the case while he was with Adam, and Adam stopped him and begged him not to look it up. The significant other said he did not do anything about it because he was scared of Adam. He said he didn't know what he would do to him if he did something about it. When we asked why he hadn't called anything like that after Adam died, he said he was unaware Adam was dead. And he said he didn't know he committed suicide and he thought that Adam had simply left the area. He said that the reason Adam had told him was because there was a conflict as to why Adam wouldn't go and get a job while he was out in Waterloo. He said that when it came up, he said, why won't you just work? Basically, it was because he was worried that investigators would find him and that we would be able to locate him that way. So some of the information that we were able to verify from the significant other statement, obviously there was some information that he gave us that was not released, which is what we have talked about. So the women were not found inside of the tent. The women were shot inside of the tent and moved. That was only known to law enforcement. Nobody else was aware of that. That was something that was kept quiet. And there was only one way that they would have known that the women were killed inside the tent is if they were there. The significant other, obviously, we had already verified was not in Utah at the time. So we were very, very clear to know the only way they would have gotten that information would have been from Adam. So a little bit more of the investigation from his phone. So again, he had looked up some of the areas there. He also had the threats on his phone. This is a screenshot from one of the memos on his phone, which is a threat on 3/18/21. Says, I'm afraid I have an ongoing impulse in me to kill or rape people. I overworked myself, and that's caused me to feel bad and think negative, evil thoughts. And this doesn't define me or say who I am. And I can say it another way redundantly if I wish. I'm a free person. So this is just part of that. But he continues on to talk about how he has repeated thoughts about killing people and how he's worried he's going to follow through with it. And while he's not worried about the other people, basically, he's worried about being judged for it. So he's also very, he makes several statements that are very racist and threatening to others in the memos. He's also very paranoid in some things. He would track license plates for unknown reasons. He would start tracking, different people that he had seen. He would start like describing incidents that he had of why people were threatening to him or demasculating him. And these were all memos that were kept on his phone. After we released the initial information of Adam being a suspect in the homicide, we received a tip from people who had been out here, out camping around March, and said that they had been on a family camping trip, and a man fitting the same description and having the same name of Adam and Pinkusiewicz of being the last name, had been in that area. They said that while he had thought everybody had left, they found him scavenging coolers in their camp area. They invited him over and had him stay for dinner, but then he continued to stay around the campground, and that he overstayed his welcome. And then when they had asked him, okay, it's time for you to go, he became aggressive when he was asked to leave. So this is a photograph of that campground showing the Yaris in the background. And that being Adam sitting in between the tent and the car. So just fitting the very things Kylen and Crystal described to their friends. So
Wow.
a lot of just the information, and I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions. So how do you want to do that?
Just go ahead and we'll open it up to investigators. People, you guys got any questions that are coming in?
So if there's any questions online, please just raise your hand via the Zoom app. We'll try and get to you as we can. Questions are going to be limited to however long the sheriff decides he's going to keep going. So we'll try and get to you, but just be patient.
I think it would be helpful to talk about other potential suspects and eliminating the process. Y'all went through to eliminate those.
Yeah, for sure. So a lot of them, obviously, we were able to eliminate with like Google timelines or CDRs on their cell phones, or just simple, witness testimonies. There was a lot of those as well. A good portion of them came from, I think probably the witnesses seeing them elsewhere, or they were able to be clarified. The bigger ones that I know were questions with Brian Landry. We had talked to them, and we were actually able to clear him because he was on his way up to see, from what my understanding was, Petito's family. So they were on their way to go meet up with hers. So he wasn't in the area, he wasn't nearby. He was, I believe, 2 hours away from here. So, but just different ways that way. So cell phones, Google timelines, electronics in general.
So we have one written question from Art Gleason. He asks, or she asks, I apologize. Is there any forensic / DNA evidence linking AP to the crime?
So not at this time. The problem with the crime scene was obviously there was, I think, 2 or 3 days of rain. So a lot of the initial DNA things that you might be able to find on the crime scene would have been destroyed As far as the car goes, we had the car towed and everything else, but it had been passed through several different owners by that point. And so a lot of the elimination and things have kind of taken place there. So while there is not now, does not mean that there won't be later on. So the case at this point will be closed, but it can still be reopened if anything else comes out.
So Jordan Miller has a question, has their hand raised. Go ahead, Jordan Miller.
Yeah, I'm Jordan Miller with the Salt Lake Tribune. I was just curious, is the evidence shown today enough to conclusively close the case, or what does that look like going forward to rule what actually happened here?
It took it off.
So as far as like, if obviously he was alive, this would be a situation where we have enough to place him under arrest and we feel like we would be able to take him to trial and get a guilty conviction. So the case will be closed. Obviously, like any other case, whether we make an arrest or not, if something does come up and it needs to be further investigated, we can always do that.
Next person that has their hand raised is Pat Reeves, iPhone.
Sorry, I just got done typing my question. Yeah, I was wondering, can you say how much of Adam's actions were premeditated and how much did he track the women down versus how much was it a random chance encounter? How much of his murder was premeditated?
You know, I think the only person that would be able to answer that, unfortunately, committed suicide. So I don't know. There's not, you know, as far as his phone tracking and whatnot, there's nothing to say that he was stalking them. But all three parties unfortunately worked on Wi-Fi phones, and so there's nothing to really be able to do CDRs and whatnot on that avenue. Obviously, Adam and Crystal worked together. Adam knew where Kylen works. Well, I guess I should say Adam knew the business that Kylen worked at, and so I know that he had been in there. So whether or not he knew the girls and was tracking them down, I don't know. I would say there's a good chance it may have just been chance meeting that he had found them.
One written question by Marlene's iPhone. Was Adam questioned by the PD prior to leaving Moab?
No, he was not. Adam was not. I don't think Adam was raised as a suspect until probably a couple weeks after. I think
It was days after he had left that he was mentioned as a suspect.
Couldn't get a hold of him. Yeah. We have a raised hand by.
Oh, hold on.
Hold on, we got one right here.
Hi, sorry, we're on here. My name's Sophia. I work at the Penn Independent Town. So to clarify, his significant other was a male, and you didn't find any evidence of like homophobia or anything like that in texts or in any of his evidence?
It's difficult to say because in his actions there were like comments that he'd made to other people that would like indicate that he was like homophobic, but the unfortunate part is we don't know the whole dynamic of that whole thing. So, but yes, it was a male.
Very interesting. That was the whole purpose. Some people were losing their minds earlier, but it's because there was allegations of homophobia, but yet he's with a guy and he kills these women. That's why people were talking about it before. I didn't want to interrupt.
So the next hand raised, I apologize if I mess up your name. It's Mathilde Gabi. Hold on, you ask your question.
Hi there, this is Nicely here. Thanks so much. I'm with Fox 13. My question is basically, what was the time from Adam committing suicide and authorities there finding his body to local investigators here reaching out and finding out that he had committed suicide by that point?
Yep, Lucy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, March.
Sorry if you can't hear him. It was March, like I want to say towards the end of March. that they had found out that he had committed suicide.
So it was about 5 months since then? 5 or 6 months?
Local intelligence agencies as well as the FBI to have an open search for Adam at a certain point in time, and we could not get anybody to have a hit on him ever. The FBI looked and SIAC looked and everybody looked, but nobody could get it.
Sorry, I couldn't hear that too well. So just to confirm, you said September end was when Adam committed suicide, and it was the end of March when local authorities reached out and kind of listed Adam as a suspect and found out what had happened?
No, so Adam was listed as a suspect probably, 1 or 2 weeks after the homicide happened.
No, he wasn't, he was a person of interest.
Well, yeah, sorry, person of interest. Let me correct that. So he was a person of interest in, I mean, one of many at that point.
Right.
So they were trying to track down people, trying to rule out other people at the same time. And then when Adam wasn't able to be located at that time, obviously when March rolled around, they were trying to track him down, and it tracked down a location. And that's when they went out to go and make contact with him at that point.
That's when it did become.
Yeah, and that's when he became more of a suspect, I guess we should say.
So it wasn't until March that any of the investigators knew that he had died by that point.
Correct.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Okay, we have time for one more question.
Nancy Corey wrote, when he bought groceries that night, the murders wasn't cameras looked at, especially since the girls said he bought groceries back. That's a given clue, right? That's a given clue right there.
There were surveillance cameras checked, but at the same time, you have to keep in mind there's multiple places to buy groceries. And we're looking for a bearded man in Moab, Utah on that given date. There's a lot of those.
So this is more of a question, sorry. Diane Edwards, is there DNA taken of his family to rule out the possibility of Adam having committed previous physical attacks or other possible murders?
Not from his family, no. We're pretty sure we have, well, yes, I can typically do. We have his DNA. So that's still being looked at.
Okay, at this time, that'll wrap up this presentation. Once again, I'd like to thank the investigators for all their hard work. Once again, my staff. Just so everybody knows, this presentation will be posted back up online, so it can be reviewed by other people. That give us probably a day or two to get it up. Anybody with any further media questions can direct them to Captain Shan Hackwell at the Sheriff's Office, and we will get them answered as quickly as possible. So I'd like to thank everybody again and have a Happy New Year.
I mean, that was really well put together, that presentation, and it made me think a lot of things. One of the things too that kind of came into my head is like why it's important that law enforcement doesn't say everything. Because sometimes in certain cases, you know, I even think about the Idaho murders. You know, some people are like, but why aren't they saying this and why are they saying that? And I understand too the frustration for sure. But there's certain things that you can't put out. And that was one of the examples in this case where they talked to Adam's significant other, and Adam's significant other was saying things to them that nobody knew but the people that either committed the crime or the law enforcement that was there. You know, that's just one of the ways to verify.
We're here today.
Information. So, you know, a lot of times people get pissed off about that. That's just part of the process. The other thing I thought was kind of interesting. I mean, there's a lot of things I'd probably have to look over. I didn't even get to hear the bullet. I heard one little sound. Maybe that's what it was. I guess that's what it's supposed to be. That one sound that we heard. Gunshots and screams. I mean, I heard a gunshot and her scream, but wait, that was it again too.
So again, those shots.
I heard the shots. Not that I want to hear the screams anyway, but that was really, really well presented. The other thing too was that this guy, apparently his significant other was a guy. And because there was rumors of like back then that maybe this guy, people were wondering, was this guy homophobic? And even way back then, says sources tell me that Adam didn't pick up his last paycheck at McDonald's. Seems like he's been on Grand County Sheriff's radar for some time. Yes, months. A team of web sleuths had visited Moab and interviewed McDonald's employees and gave his name to law enforcement. That's when we learned his name and started researching him. It was in 2021. I wonder if he killed himself in Utah. The other thing too that I was thinking about with regards to like this case, it made me think about the Idaho again too, and that like, you know, the more and more time that goes, it just in my head, my thoughts is like, damn, maybe this is not somebody in the inner circle. And I jumped to like, well, maybe this is somebody completely random, but it also could be somebody kind of like on the outer circle or somebody that just maybe in passing. This guy didn't really seem to know them too well, besides working with Crystal. Let me see, where's that video at?
53.
Give me 1 second. 1 second. All right, my bad. Let's see here. The whole thing too, where it talked about, because the thing is like, they were asking too, was this premeditated? Like, was this planned and planned and planned and planned? And they said they kind of really don't know. It could have been coincidence, but I'm like, how is it coincidence? But maybe coincidence that he just happened to run across them at that campsite. He definitely knew them or of them. This guy had a lot of issues. There's people like this are walk around life that just completely hate people, completely miserable. They have potentially mental, obviously. I mean, it got to be mental health. I don't know what else, or maybe something deeper inside. Since he said he's had these thoughts of killing and R-ing, because it reminds me even to my own little things, you know, completely unrelated. But like, there was two people that like, well, there was this one guy I didn't reply to his email. I didn't see it. Like, I get a whole bunch of emails, and so this guy, and he's somebody that used to be in the chat all the time. Oh, hey guys, hi, like seeming so pleasant and friendly. Hey guys, and because I didn't respond to like 2 emails, this guy went on a tirade, wishing death on me, wishing death on my child, wishing terminal illness on us, and like all this kind of like, this guy was so angry and hateful. And I'm like, damn, Like sometimes you cross paths with somebody and you have no idea that this person is thinking about you, upset with you, just completely enraged just by walking by them or just whatever, somehow encountering them. And so this guy worked with Crystal at the McDonald's. And I guess they're presenting this because one, the guy's dead. And two, maybe to put things to rest, which I can appreciate these people, unlike some other instances, other stories where these people just let things linger forever. I can appreciate that they at least they're putting an end to it, And they even walked you down the possible theories. They had a really great timeline, pictures, photos. And this guy was also van life. This guy was just fired. I guess employer McDonald's fired. But I think it's because he stopped showing up to work. Never returned to work after the homicides. Never picked up his last check. Conflict with coworkers, and became threatening and hostile. I used to work with this at one of the hospitals that I work with. I'm not going to say his name, but there was this guy, and I had a picture. It was kind of a funny picture, but it's somewhere in my Google Photos. There was this guy that clearly had some sort of issues. He would get into things with different coworkers. He would walk around he'd be on the elevators, just riding the elevators up and down, just people coming in and out. So much so that even the patients and the people in the hospital were concerned and making a report to this guy. It took them a long ass. I don't even. When I left, he wasn't even fired yet. And I think because they were my theory is that because he has money and maybe the hospital was afraid to fire him or let him go, and they had to go through a procedure. But everybody was uncomfortable with this guy. We used to joke around that if anybody's going to come and shoot this place up, it's this guy. And this hospital wouldn't do shit about it. The furthest that they did before I left is because this guy went into the director's office. Something happened. This guy slammed the chair, screamed or whatever. They sent him to go work from home. I don't know if he was fired or not, but this guy was nuts. And he'd be walking around in a jacket and a freaking hat, all black and shit, just roaming the hallways, roaming the cafeteria. Sometimes he's there, just standing in the cafeteria, and these people wouldn't do nothing. The other thing that this made me think about, because it just has my mind kind of racing. We were watching last night on Discord and Twitch. We were watching this really interesting channel called. Let me see if I can find it in my history. This channel called. It's Unreal something. I know it's here. Oh, Unsolved No More. Unsolved No More. And this video was really interesting. I recommend you check out his channel if you ever have time, because this guy interviewed a guy that's on death row, right? And this guy, he killed somebody. The guy that he's interviewing, he's in San Quentin death row inmate William Nogora. He killed his girlfriend's mother, apparently. Bill was arrested for the murder of his girlfriend's mother in 1983 and spent 39 years on death row. Anyway, during this interview, one of the things that the guy said is that, people have kind of let go of their primal instincts, I guess, because just society, maybe the internet, and I'm not saying anything bad about these girls, but just I even think about myself of when you get that feeling, that primal instinct, something's not right. For example, this creeper MFer that was at this campsite, this guy was saying, just believe your instincts. A lot of the times I doubt my own instincts. Believe your instincts. You know what I'm saying? Try to follow through. Okay, don't go or leave, or don't feel bad that you leave, or don't. This guy said, I think his words were verbatim, don't feel like a coward. Protect yourself, leave, believe in your instinct, maybe go with somebody or leave the place, change your whole, even if it's an inconvenience. You ever just get that feeling like somebody's watching you, or just a bad gut feeling? This guy was saying, follow that instinct, the primal instinct. And this guy was sus from the beginning, I guess. Never returned to work after the homicides. Never picked up his last check. Was not responding to law enforcement calls. And I guess it seemed like he was living off grid. And there's even it was thought to be that he was potentially homophobic and at the same time in a relationship with a guy. Adam became irate at the McDonald's night manager because they were telling him he needed to go faster. Adam got into his manager's face and started making comments and making derogatory comments towards the manager about their sexuality. And that's something that's kind of intriguing too. Like, why have hate for these people and you're about people's sexuality and you're in your own thing as well. And I don't know if it's just maybe like the way you're raised, because even referred to one time as lefties and all this stuff. I mean, it's just kind of weird. I don't know if it's a mental thing. And why hate to that level? Like, if you disagree with something, okay, but why to that freaking level? You know what I mean? Like, these people, it just reminds me a little bit of politics. I'm not gonna get into that too much, but like at one point a couple of years ago, I was too much into it, but I knew like, all right, this is like, people are like losing friendships. People are not talking with the family anymore. It's like some people take this stuff to like a whole nother level. You know what I'm saying? And none of us are really in control of that shit anyway. But these people are losing their minds over this shit and taking things to a whole nother level where people are getting hurt. People are dying. People are losing sleep. People are like, they're sacrificing their mental health, all kinds of stuff. Their blood pressure's going up. People are, I mean, Adam was pacing around and punching his fist to his hand. And the thing with that was August 8th, 2021. And so that's the thing too. It's like, let's see. August 22nd. So he wasn't, it wasn't too much long after all this shit happened. But people like this at the job, they should just be let go. Like, why is there a thing? Like, are these people worried about a lawsuit or like whatever, the protective rights or whatever? That's some crazy shit. Other coworkers reported that he had said he should take her outside and kick her ass. The night manager left the store because they felt that Adam would do something to them. Bruh. Another manager came in to deal with the situation, and Adam was just threatening towards the manager, pushing towards them, and would not move away. I mean, he still, even if they would have fired him, I mean, they did, I guess, or he didn't come back, but he probably would have still came back and did something, Pushing towards them and would not move away from them at the table. Adam had to be told to clock out and leave because he would not calm down. This is the first suspect to me on the list immediately. There's a lot. I think there's a lot of people out there like this, with this kind of like, I don't know, anger and hate and chip on their shoulder type of stuff. Became irate. On the 7th or 8th, Adam had seen Crystal walk behind the counter to make her and Kylen sandwiches. Crystal was not in uniform and was calling out to Kylen, calling her baby. Adam was upset that Crystal was back behind the counter and asked another employee if she can do that. Can she do that? The employee said it was apparent that he was more upset that Crystal was making sandwiches for her girlfriend rather than just making food. They seem to have an issue with that. I don't know. No one can confirm Adam ever confronted Crystal, and it's not believed there was an argument between the two of them. And so the thing is, too, it's like, the girls have reported that there was a creeper, and I think they told their friends that. But you would have thought they'd recognize Adam, but then in this, evidence release, they had mentioned the mask, which I've been talking about for a long time. This mask thing has been helping these criminals out since day one. So maybe he was wearing a mask. Masks were worn during work shifts due to pandemic. Crystal and Adam did not work the same shifts, and Crystal may have not known who Adam was. But the thing is, how would she have not known? Well, because he talked to other employees, I guess. They must have known of each other, though, even if they worked different shifts. I mean, I work different shifts at the hospital, and I know about the nutbags on the other shifts. That nutbag that was walking around in all black all the time with a trench coat and shit, he worked on the first shift. That was on the second shift. You know, they have had to know of each other, but maybe they didn't know intimately of each other, you know, or like really ever talk to each other, possibly. I wouldn't want to be this guy though. They're using the photo is from body camera. Maybe that's the police or something. From body camera from Waterloo PD. The person in the vehicle is not Adam. So don't put me in the picture though. Blur me out. These people on the internet crazy. I don't want to be your stock. I mean that is the car, but I wouldn't want my face on that. Oh man, that's just insane. Well, let me get the super chats and see what you guys are, and then I'll look at the chat too. Autistic Santa, thank you for the super chat. Says it doesn't make sense. The girls said creepy guy as if they didn't know him. If we're a coworker, chances they'd say something. That's the only thing that I was just saying too. But I know you sent this 40 minutes ago. I guess they work different shifts, but like I don't know. I've known people, a lot of people at my other job, and there's a lot of us in that pharmacy at that hospital. I've known almost everybody on all the other shifts. And people that are problematic, I knew of them. I knew them or knew of them. But then I'm just wondering if maybe he had that mask on, or maybe they knew of him, but not really didn't know him, you know? Jennifer, thank you for the super chat. Egypt Mania Thompson says, oh, thank you for the 8-month membership. How did they get the recording of the gunshot? That's a great question. So they said that there were some cabins nearby. I used to have the GPS location of the area because Sean Paul had sent it to me before. I don't think I have it anymore. I used to have it. They said there were some cabins there, but there was another thing too. There was okay, the Mesa. It's the Mesa area of LaSalle Loop Road. But I don't have the specific GPS to the area. I used to have it. There's this little fancy place nearby that had a wedding. I don't know if it was the day of the murders or close to the murders. I wonder if they somehow picked up the gunshot. Yeah, the wedding reception, Jen. Yeah. Oh, maybe a wildlife cam too. Vic says maybe a wildlife cam. Possible. Joanne, thank you for the super chat. Says, why didn't they allude to knowing him in their text messages? I would have said something. This creep I work with. True. Yeah. Love what you do. Thank you. Law Lawyers, thank you for the super chat. Says, people need to stop calling them van lifers. They were homeless. LOL. Living in a Yaris is not the same lifestyle at all. There's a big difference. That's probably true. I don't know if that maybe people that are homeless maybe try to use that term maybe sometimes, but yeah, the van lifers, it's literally like a van, right? A van or a RV or something, and it's all like fancy kind of, well, it doesn't have to be fancy, but you know, they make it so you can live out of it. You know. That girl in Texas, hey Mel, new Patreon and Discord member here. I gotta take a crash course on Discord. It's confusing. I love your channel and love you. I have a big crush. Thank you so much. There's a video I posted on Discord. It said DM me or email me, and I'll send you the link to the video, and that should get you through. And I'm gonna make a whole video area to help people out with that. Lady M, hello Mel. Is there a name for Adam's situation? You know, being with his own kind, but is homophobic. I don't know. I'm sure someone in the chat has a term for it. I mean, you hear stories like that. You know, I don't know. I think sometimes too that there's like hate amongst people that are in the same certain groups. But like this guy he seemed to have an issue with that, but also politics and just almost like people in general as well. Huh. Katrina, thank you. 23 months membership, amazing. There was also a wedding nearby. Maybe they got it from him. Thanks for the update. Thanks, Katrina. It's kind of bizarre, man. It just kind of like makes you think more of this story to just like, I don't know. I mean, you want to say be careful, but like, how are you supposed to look out for some crazy person like that you barely know, upset? Lori says they call that self-loathing. Probably, yeah. That sounds about right. I had some major issues. I can play the rest of this bounty hunter thing, but this was from 7 months ago, keep in mind. But bounty hunter felt that Adam wasn't involved in this.
That doesn't mean because they let him go once that they can't go back and check. The reason Brian Laundrie is connected, Brian Laundrie was down here with Gabby.
Oh, God.
In the exact restaurant where the girls worked. They met the girls. They're seen in a camera, going in the same place. Brian Laundrie used a 9mm to commit suicide. And the girls were also shot with the 9mm. So that is why I think the connection to Brian Laundrie was given. It was not Brian Laundrie that did it. It's not his gun. Brian Laundrie absolutely killed himself and is dead. And we think that
some people think he's still alive too. There's people out there that they still think Brian's alive.
The new suspect the sheriff come up with is good as a suspect, but I don't think he's the shooter. I think we've got the shooter. We're turning all our information tomorrow over to the FBI and the sheriff, and we'll see what happens from there.
What drew you to this particular case? Why take this one on?
Well, the father it's been 8 months since the girls were slaughtered, basically. And the father has, once a week, please dog. And then he said, I wish my mom's birthday's coming up soon. Her grandmother, dog, please, I pray every night for you to come. And it just got to me. I said, all right, John Paul, I'll come down there and see what we can do. So we're here now.
So you think the killer's still out there? You think you know who it is? I want to have you back when you get closer, when you talk to law enforcement and the FBI. But you've gone over all of the evidence.
So Sean Paul, which is like, he's a really nice guy. I've for those that have watched the channel for a while, I've interviewed him twice. And I've done the videos. There's 2 videos of me talking with him. Really good guy. And I've spoken to him on the phone multiple times. This was November 8th. I think was the luckiest man alive to work with Marcos Ortiz in the course of 4 years. In well over 100 of the Justice File segments. This is one of my favorites. We did it, Marcos. Suspect named. And he was really happy that they found the guy. It's finally over. This was December 19th. It's official. Case closed. Overwhelming evidence convinced police and prosecutors that Adam killed Kylen and Crystal. So they're officially closing the case. The lead investigator told Sean Paul Adam had been alive. Had Adam been alive, they would have arrested him back in May. Okay. And this guy was like, he was collecting his own tips out there because at the time, it's a really small town, Moab, Utah, a small town. So he went out there and he was putting in the groundwork himself. He had a tip area. I think this was the clue booth. Yeah, the clue booth, open Moab. And he was trying to collect tips, just trying to get answers. He was just, desperate to get justice.
Close your eyes. one's gathered round you now. Our hearts are sending up the sound of the peace. There's a lullaby
The song.
every night the stars shine through. And there's a rainbow.
That's a really nice song. It'd make me a little sad though. I mean, on already a sad, tragic case. But really nice guy, man. Like I said, genuine guy. So I mean, I'm glad there's some sort of, you know, I guess closure. I don't know if it's really closure for people, you know, but at least maybe a chapter to it, you know. And the thing, let me show you guys too, I guess, while we're here. And anytime we cover these stories too, it makes me think of like other stories. So while now we're listening to this, I was kind of thinking of the Idaho stuff, which by the way, in the Idaho, they supposedly Chief Fry alluded to like, they might release the, he said it's up to the prosecutors if they release the 911 calls, either at the trial or before. But like, I don't know that they're really going to do that though, honestly. You know, curiosity, I'm curious to see what, you know, I don't know what's on there, but are they going to benefit from releasing it now before, unless they think it'll help the investigation? I don't see that it would. The interviews that I did with him are actually kind of long. So what I'll do is I'll put the links in the description if you're interested in the story, because they're almost like 30 minutes each. So I'll put the links in the description. Interview number 1. Unless you want to hear one interview now. We could do one maybe. Interview 1. Interview 2. Dad interview 1. Dad interview 2. I just added it to the comment section. Moab had 5,317 people. It's super small. Yeah, thanks. Beautiful Disaster says. Miranda says, I also wish I had the balls to van life. I couldn't see I personally could. I don't think I could do that. It's not my interest, the van life. I do want to start traveling more. Like, hopefully, I just want to get a bigger place first. Like, bigger place this year for sure, without a doubt. But I'd like to travel a bit more if I can. But yeah, the van, I don't even like road trips. I don't like being in the car for hours and, oh, this is fun. 8 hours, 10 hours, 12. I'd rather just fly. Maybe if I was younger back in the day. Now, man, 15 hour, 20 hour, nah. Good. I just take a flight, bro. It's really weird that Brian and Gabby were there. We were so for sure it was him at the time. Mac and Z Blue. Sometimes there's just coincidence. I guess, you know, sometimes some people don't believe in coincidences, but sometimes there's just things like that happen, you know. iCkEdMeL, check Discord. Okay. So Lisa sent me a screenshot of Brian Enton's post. Brian Enton says, let's see here. Tomorrow, Moscow police say a cleaning crew will enter the crime scene to remove potential biohazards and harmful substances used to collect evidence. There's no timeline for how long it will take, but the house will be returned to the property management company when completed. Okay. Thanks. Sarah, thank you for the super chat. It says, Mel, do you remember someone on your channel pointing out the similarities of Brian's parents' attorney? What? Oh, Brian's parents' attorneys and Brian's ear. Sounds crazy, but both have the exact same weird pointy ears. When I saw that, I knew Brian was the attorney's son. What? Are you talking about Yeah, man. Get a job said. I'm with you on that one. Mel, road trips are hell. Yeah, I'm too old for that shit. I'm not gonna be 15 hours, 20 hours, man, wasting my time in life to look out the window, sit down stuck in the chair or whatever, you know, man. Time is more important now. You know, I mean, I got time for the driving like that. But Bertolino. So Bertolino, I remember the one interview that we saw. Bertolino had said that like he knew. I thought he said he knew Brian Enton or something for a long time, or did he know his dad? I thought he had known him for a long time or something like that, and that he knew him since he was a kid or something. I don't know. Damn. Angie says, yeah, I'm with you, Mel. Comfort all the way nowadays. I used to hitchhike for the fun of it with my buddy back in the day. Damn, for the fun of it. Hell no. I think I have picked up like 2 hitchhikers before locally, but I don't think I'll ever do that again. This was a while back when I was younger. Met some really weird sketch people. Thank you. I'm like, okay. Just keep it at a distance. But the door's unlocked driving, you know, in case I got to jump out or some shit. Or I got to push him. He knew him since he was a young boy, right? Yeah. They hitchhike in Hawaii daily, really? Also being all sore after sitting so long. Yeah. Mel, Christy wants to hear her name. Look up. Oh, yeah. Did I miss her super chat? Oh, there is some super. I'm sorry. There is, I think, 3 super chats I missed. Phyllis, thank you for the super chat and support. Appreciate it. Chrissy says, Mel, thank you so much for doing this. I had no idea it was happening. Me either. Jazz gave me the heads up. Happy New Year. I hope that your success continues in the new year. It's been awesome to see how far you've come. Thank you, Chrissy. Appreciate you riding with me too. Kelly, 2-stroke girl, thank you for the super chat. Love your channel and have for a year now, for a year or so now. Great job. You're headed to the big leagues. Thank you. And thank you for becoming a member. I've been adding members videos too, so make sure you check on my front page. I've been adding more member videos. I'm going to try to be more consistent with that. So not only do you have like, you know, the extra access of, you know, just the icons and the chat and supporting the channel, but there's extra content and videos in the members area. It's on my front page on YouTube. You just got to scroll down. So. Yeah, it's true. The neighborhood says Bertolino isn't even a criminal lawyer. He's a real estate. Yeah. Yeah. No, I haven't watched The Hitcher. I still got to watch what is it, Cocaine Bear or something like that? It's some movie. Somebody was telling me to watch Cocaine Bear. Let me see. Is there anything else with Oh, there is a new well, I think he said the same thing. Chief Fry said the whole thing about them. See, I love this article too. I like the Independent. Real quick, let me just see. I shared a vague update on the 911 call that led to the discovery of the victims' bodies could be released. Authorities have been tight-lipped on it. James Fry was pressed on when the call would be made public in a rare interview. A rare interview. I think it'll be released when the prosecution believes we can release it, he said. That may be at trial. That may be before then. I'm not reading too much into it. I mean, it's interesting that there could be a possibility it comes out before. I don't know that it really would be a possibility that it come out before. So, I mean, I'm not going to like lose my mind, but I am going to be on alert. Like if it does come out, we're going to jump on it, of course, with everybody else. Let me see. Scroll up here. Chrissy Lee, I'm sorry. Chrissy Lee Mel, didn't you get my $20 super chat calling me out? Yes, I'm sorry. Thank you so much for that, Chrissy. Sarah, oh, I got that too. Thank you so much for that. Gypsy, I was shooting Grizzly. True crime would collab. It could happen sometime. It could happen. I'm not opposed to that. She's really nice. I'm usually just kind of like really busy. I really rarely ever collab. Not anything against anybody. I'm saying that I wouldn't, but who knows? Maybe the future could hold that. She's really nice. I don't have any, and congrats to her on her 100K. Well deserved, and she stays out of the drama and stuff. PB&J, thank you so much for the super chat, Mel. You did an amazing job covering this case and giving Sean Paul a voice through it all. I really like that guy. He called me. The last time I spoke to him was before I got this new phone. I forgot to message him and let him know I have a new number, but we just had a really nice conversation. He was just like, thank you for all the support and like letting me come on and like being one of the first people like on it. It was just really nice. I feel like I could probably hang out with that guy. I feel like we could hang out and like smoke or something. I don't know if he smokes. He probably does though. Just like a really chill guy. Black hair, and he was just like really positive too. Even though he was like hurting, he's just like a really positive and just trying really hard to get justice. And black hair chick, thank you so much for the super chat. Says seems like the killer was angry at the world because he was in the closet and couldn't live a happy life like the girls. Maybe it was a jealousy thing. Yeah, maybe he was upset and like jealous or something that he's just repressed, I guess. That's what it's like. Some of those people too, yeah, they get upset just to see somebody else happy and like living their life. Though some of those people that are just upset and angry about everything. Jazz, thank you for the 12-month membership. It's been 12 months already. Love to Sean Paul and a sunflower. Thank you. Wobbles, thank you for becoming a member. Appreciate that. Let's see. Be clean starting Friday. We got a video.
I'd like to give a quick update to the community. Starting Friday morning, we are going to be bringing in a professional cleaning crew to go to the residents and begin cleaning. Part of the reason we're doing that is because of the biohazards as well as chemicals that were used during the investigation. So there will be activity over at that residence on King Road, and we just want people to know about that. I'd like to update everybody on the amount of tips that we've received. Number one, because we've received a lot more tips here recently and we're continuing to investigate those and follow up on those. We've received over 19,650 tips. Email-wise, 9,025 of those have come in. Phone-wise, 4,575, and we've received over 6,050 digital tips. We want to thank the community for all their help and thank everybody across the nation for the help that they've given us.
That's kind of it. Drita says, my favorite YouTuber, Happy New Year. I'll be here no matter what the story you. Sorry, let me just try that again. My favorite YouTuber, Happy New Year. I'll be here no matter what the story. You make everything so interesting. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I've just been kind of like on cruise control lately. I've been at least this week and a half. I think things are a little bit slower because it's like the holidays and stuff and everybody's on vacation or like going to visit family or off of work and stuff. But I don't know. The support's been just beautiful, really, from everybody. Um, let's see. Yeah, this is way back. What is this? Oh, this area here shows the area of the map. Okay.
Now, the other thing that I find interesting is that the wedding party did not know that the girls were murdered a stone's throw away. I think they were just.
So this is where that, for the other person that was asked earlier, I don't think I don't want to play the whole thing, but like I wanted to skip to this part just so people can get a visual too. And I believe this was the girls' campsite where the bodies were found. And this is the Whispering Oaks Ranch, and there was like a wedding reception. So a lot of people were wondering and talking about that. There's the Oaks house here too. There's two things here, really. Actually, I thought the wedding thing was here. I'm not sure. Was it the Whispering Oaks house? No. It was the ranch, because the ranch is closer, I think.
Just led to believe it happened up at Warner Lake. So to me, that's kind of odd. I mean, I know they didn't want to spoil the wedding party and all this and that, but
right. Well, there's two things here. There's these.
In my opinion, if 100 people were a stone's throw away from where the girls were murdered, those 100 people should be suspects. They should be printed in DNA. I mean, any one of them could have walked from the wedding to the girls' campsite in 2 minutes and then been back in 2 minutes. And so, you know, I think authorities really dropped the ball by not questioning, you know, interrogating, interviewing, printing, DNAing 100 suspects. There was a stone's throw away.
Right. And I was thinking too, I was wondering like if that wedding party, like those Whispering Oaks, if they have security or like any off-duty officers or cameras, like maybe just somebody noticed somebody weird or off or anything.
Well, they definitely have cameras because those are pretty affluent house. You know, they're really super nice houses up there, and some of them have like cameras on the doorbell or cameras in the corner of the building or cameras looking at the.
That might be how they got the audio, either from one of the cameras out there at these places, or maybe a wildlife cam, like Vic was saying.
Property,
the green screen days, right?
Or the grounds, or you know, there's definitely footage. I mean, the authorities have lots and lots and lots of footage to watch through.
Okay.
And they don't have the manpower to do that in a timely fashion.
Have any like private investigators reached out that maybe can help out? I know that helps sometimes too.
Private investigators?
Yeah, to try to help you out.
No.
Okay.
No, I mean, there's been some talk on Facebook of.
I think he might have got one after. I'm not sure.
This guy or that guy wants to. Wherever, but you know, to me, because.
In that one article that I sent you, and multiple people have sent you, I heard the guy was caught. He was captured.
Oh, they're talking about that guy that escaped the loony bin, the sex offender from wherever. But
I feel like they got a whole bunch of weird people. I mean, I don't want to be people get mad at me. The whole West area is a lot of weird people. You know, I don't know. Utah area, Idaho. I don't know.
But you know, to me, that's just like Brian Laundrie. That guy and Brian Laundrie. Those are different cases. Those. You know, I got, 30 or 40 tips the first week. Mm-hmm. Nobody said the name Brian Laundrie, and nobody said that other guy's name.
One final thing, too. Did they tell you, I saw that there was a press release, and they said, one more thing. One final thing, too. Did they tell you, I saw that there was a press release, and they said that this case is not related to Gabby Petito. Did they? Do you know why they said that?
They said it's not related to Gabby.
Yeah, I saw
when they
one
let
press-
out that one-line press release a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
The only thing I can guess, so I don't know, but the only thing I can guess is they must have a DNA or a fingerprint or ballistics or something.
Okay.
For them to be able to rule someone out that fast and that easily, that tells me they must have something. Say that again?
What, do you know if there were any sightings of their vehicle through those days? Like, has anybody's, like, they saw, I know you said the Chevron, that unverified report, but that was it, I guess. Huh?
Well, the guy at Chevron said he saw Kylen on the motorcycle by herself on Saturday, but then said it might have been Friday.
Okay, she has a motorcycle too. I know that.
No, it's Crystal's motorcycle.
Oh, it's Crystal's motorcycle. Gotcha.
Crystal's Harley.
Okay.
Her, most prized possession in the world, her little Harley.
Well, thanks again. I appreciate it, man. Reach out anytime if you need anything. Let me know. The petition is to get more awareness and I guess get the FBI on this case as well because they're still not on this case.
I don't know what the petition is. I don't know who started the petition. I don't know what the petition is.
I saw people wondering that too.
That says there's 8,000 people, but only 88 people signed the petition. If the petition is to try to get the FBI involved, they're involved.
Yeah.
If the
they are involved.
Petition is, yeah, but don't be misled like we all were. Involved doesn't mean they took over the case. Involved just means access to their database, their forensics, whatever. At no point did 20 FBI agents come down on Moab and take this case over. That's not true. Not even two. Not even one FBI agent came and said they're taking over the case. That never happened.
Well, thank you for clarifying that. It's really good to know as well.
Now, Mel, there's two issues that I want to bring up. Okay? One is communication between authorities and a victim.
This was interesting too when you said that.
And by a victim, I don't just mean me, but I mean like even a member of Moab, a victim of our society, our community, okay? And so the communication between authorities and a victim, and what I mean by that is a victim might call and give the best clue in the whole wide world that solves the case. And the person who listens to that clue on the phone call, they don't even say thank you. They just say okay and hang up.
Right.
So then people feel like nobody listened. So then they turn around and they call a different agency and leave the same tip. Like, let's say the first time they called the sheriff's office and all they got was okay. And then the second time, maybe 3 days later, they call the FBI and they don't even say, okay, you're just leaving a recording. You got to understand when a tipper leaves a tip, they do not feel like anyone gives a shit. They don't even think anyone's taking action on their tip because nobody says, thank you for the tip. We appreciate the tip. We're taking action on the tip. Call back if you remember any additional information. That doesn't happen. Someone gives a tip and the authorities just say, okay, and then they hang up.
That's true.
So, of course, people are repeating tips. Of course, they call the sheriff one day, 3 days later, they call the FBI, and 3 days later, they come to the booth and they tell me the same tip. Because they don't feel like anyone listened to begin with. That's one of the real stories in between the lines of this, is communication between authorities and victims is horrid. It's almost non-existent. The second story in between these lines is the level of coverage. So, Mel, we all know how much coverage Gabby got.
Right.
That level of coverage would be like an Amber Alert going off on your phone. Everyone knew. Look how fast they found Gabby's van and then found her body.
Right.
That's super good coverage for Gabby. That's almost like an Amber Alert goes off and the whole world knows what vehicle to look for the stolen kid.
Right.
That's that level of coverage. Now forget my level, which is in the middle. Let's go down to the bottom, Mel. Let's talk about when a Native American girl comes up missing and she gets zero coverage. None. Maybe
Right.
a tribal cop tells a couple cousins, and that's it. There's no national blitz on TV to look for this beautiful young Native American girl. None. I mean, we at least got local and state attention, even a tiny bit on the tabloids, like they'd show Gabby and then you'd see a little tiny.
So I'll put those 2 links in the chat. I mean, in the description. Somebody was saying to Mel, are you watching your own videos to get react? Yeah, I was. I wasn't playing the whole thing, but you don't have to stay. You could leave if you want. But yeah, I was listening. I was making a couple of points for the map and some of the interesting things that Kylen's father had said. And then also Jazz had sent me this, which is this is Quentin Simon's casket. See? I think. Let's see. That's nice. Zanime, thank you for the 14-month membership. Happy New Year's, Mel. Happy New Year's to you too. I appreciate that. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're at peace now, hopefully, too. All these crazy people. Lady M, thank you for the super chat, says, I'm thinking in his mind with his own is okay, but with females, it's not okay. Maybe. I'm thinking in his mind with his own is okay, but maybe not with females. Sorry, trying to understand a crazy person's thought process. Thank you. Yeah, I couldn't tell you. And there's so much missing with that guy information, I guess, right? It would be interesting to hear what that significant other has to say. Like if he wanted to like talk and like interview, I don't know. But at the same time, we could just let it rest. I don't know. Chrissy Lee, thank you for the super chat. Says, Mel, didn't you get my $20 super chat? Oh, I think I read that already. I did. Yeah. Thanks. I got that. Okay. I think I got everything. Chrissy Lee says, thank you for the super chat. Mel, I promise you I'm not trying to call you out. LMAO. I had a bank account hacked from YouTube a few months ago after sending a super chat, so now I get paranoid if I don't know it's received. Okay, no, you're good. Thank you. I appreciate that. Gypsy says, you're in Florida. You got zero room to talk about weirdos. I don't know. See, that's true. Like Florida does. I feel like Florida used to lead, but like, I don't know. A lot of these places now, I feel like the stories out of Florida have been, lately it's been kind of quiet. I mean, there's stuff happening here all the time, but compared to some of these other states, man, y'all starting to take the lead. I'm sorry. And it, oh. The other thing too, the other reason why I recap sometimes too, before I even started playing the video, I said I wasn't going to play the whole thing. I was just picking out 2 or 3 parts from the video, but we have a whole new audience on the channel. We've been growing a lot lately. So for a lot of people, there's some people in the chat that like, they've never heard of this story. They come in and like, hey, what's going on? Hey, who's this and what happened? And I don't know what's going on. And so that's why sometimes we do a recap so we can share some of the names and some of these people's faces and the stories and to bring more attention to it. That's why sometimes when I when there's an update for an old story, sometimes we have to do a recap. And sometimes I might play a little old video or whatever. I mean, I'm not going to drag you guys to watch the entire whole thing again if I don't have to. But, some people haven't heard or seen these stories, Okay, and I think that's it for now. So I appreciate you guys, man. Thank you so much for coming through. Hope you guys have a great day. I do have notifications, so if a chase comes or something, no way. Is that really true? They're saying Andrew Tate is arrested. Hold on, let me double check and triple check this. Andrew Tate. I don't know. I'd like to. Let me see if I can verify this. Let me look more. I don't know if this is true. They're saying supposedly that Andrew Tate's home in Romania has been allegedly raided by authorities in connection with organized crime. I haven't seen any big media sources cover it yet. There's some small reports that I never heard of before. So I'll have to wait and see on that. That's something I definitely want to wait and get some more, wait for some more coverage on that. They're saying got arrested for organized crime. Huh. I guess we'll see. We'll follow. I don't know. Some people say fake news, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I'm going to wait and see. So we may talk about it at some time. Daily Beast is talking about it. Let's see. This article you sent me is from April, though. This is April 27, 2022. So yeah, I'm going to wait and see. We'll talk about it some other time, if anything. And yeah, take it with a grain of salt for now. We'll wait. They're saying it was rated, but let's just wait and see. There's no reason for me to jump on it right now. So yeah, let me see how many notifications I got. I got 2 notifications for today. So if there's a chase, I'll be back. Or if there's some other breaking story or something, for now, I'm gonna go work out. I'm gonna go a little. I'm trying to stay in shape, get in better shape. Andrew Tate. But all right, I'll be back maybe later. Love you guys. Take care. Peace. Hit like on the way out. Yeah, I don't see nothing on local news, so that's why I'm saying like wait a little bit. So we'll see. All right. Peace. Love you guys. Bye. Blip, blip, blip. Blip, blip, blip.